Hi guys, it's Leah with Family Heritage Living Off Grid. I wanted to touch base today on a very unpleasant aspect of homesteading, especially if you live in a northern climate. There's all different types of ways to homestead. You can homestead on grid, off grid, you can homestead in a community, you can homestead in the middle of nowhere, you can homestead somewhat in the middle of nowhere, cabin, farmhouse, trailer, anything. I mean, homesteading is a wide area and it can differ in all things, but there's one thing that's the same. If you choose to have animals when you are a homesteader, and that is having those animals being properly cared for, especially in the cold winter months. Also the heat, but right now we're dealing with deep freeze throughout the U.S., so I thought it was appropriate to touch base on this. We have had temperatures where we're at. Now this is a real feel, okay? There's a difference between when you look at the weather and it says actual temperature and real feel, okay? The actual temperature at that point, it doesn't matter. What it matters is what the feel is. And for us up here, we have had temperatures the past several days of minus like 36. Real feel being minus 17, but because of wind chills or for us having the lake around us and stuff pushes the temperature differently. And that is extremely cold. So there's extra precautions that we have to take besides just the normal precautions that you take in winter. One of the things that the cold weather does is the animals, the livestock will eat more. And that's how they keep their body warm. Horses, cows, goats. The colder it gets, the more they need to be able to consume because that's what produces their heat. Because even if they're in a barn typically isn't heated, so the animal is still adjusting to the cold temperature. So you need to make sure that you give them plenty of additional feed. The other thing that you need to do is make sure that they have bedding, dry bedding, so that they are able to get away from the cold ground. Horses are a little different. I mean, horses, yeah, bedding, but if they're in a lean-to versus like a barn where, the barn has a floor and it's easier to clean that out and that bedding's not getting all wet and then froze and then being a problem for the horse's hooves. But just make sure they have a clean area, an area that they can get out of the weather from. And a lean-to is an acceptable way for a farm animal to be out of the weather. But definitely they need something. We use sawdust for our outside animals. We have a workshop, so we have plenty of sawdust, and it's good, clean bedding. We get it from maple, typically some hickory, but that gives us the opportunity to give them fresh bedding and as regular as we need to. Be prepared to water multiple times a day. In the winter or in the summer, you can fill, their water containers, whether it's you've got a water trough or you use 5-gallon buckets or whatever the case. And that's probably going to go empty before you have to worry about, obviously before it freezes. In the winter, it's not the same way. You can put a container of water out there and it's frozen before the animal will get to it. So if you don't have, the plug-in heaters for the water troughs and such, you have to be prepared to empty out those buckets or to offer them water throughout the day. Our water chores increase from twice a day on a normal climate type day in the summer and like when it's not super hot to 4 times a day in the winter because we can't leave the water bucket filled or it just freezes. The other thing is if you have animals that are typically known as indoor animals, they have the soft pads, cats, dogs, please be aware that their feet can freeze very quickly in this weather. They need a place, if you keep them outside, they need a place too that they can go into, a doghouse with some straw. This gives them the ability to keep their feet from getting froze, but also it helps them to produce heat when they nestle down in that straw. And if they're inside, please don't leave them outside for very long to do their duty outside. In fact, we noticed here that yesterday our dogs, a couple of them went outside to go to the bathroom. Usually it takes about 5 minutes or so, but it hadn't even been that long, and they weren't she wasn't barking, but when Ron went to look outside for her, she was walking really funny on her paws. And within just a couple of minutes, ice had already formed because her paws were warm when she went outside. So when that warm paw hit that cold snow, it created an ice situation. And ice was forming to her paws, and if it left out there too long, it could damage them. So I just wanted to throw that video out there for y'all that have homestead animals or domesticated pets to please be very aware right now with the U.S. being so cold throughout. Please have compassion on them. Hope that little reminder or tip helps somebody. You guys have a good day. God bless.